All right, good evening, everybody. Let's talk weather. We've got a lot to talk about. We're kind of in that stage where we're starting to see some subtle changes with the models, in particular the European model, and it's the one we've been going with all along. The GFS model hasn't changed much at all. It's still talking about snow. I really think our chances for significant snow are starting to go down, but the chances for significant sleet and ice are going up. And I think that's the problem. The models are really struggling with what the precipitation type is going to be. And there's also from the European model, it's bringing this warm nose up, and we're going to talk about this in a second. It's bringing temperatures up to about 33, 34 degrees east of I-65 up into the Sand Mountain area and Lookout Mountain, and that's around 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning Sunday. So having said that, we're still looking at the potential for significant icing in the trees, on power lines, on roads throughout the morning and early afternoon hours on Saturday before we may see a transition. Now, the 18Z, I call it the 18Z, the noon model run of the European showed a little bit more of a drastic change, but it's those in-between model runs we don't usually rely on as much. So tonight's going to be a real important model run for the European model, and it's really not complete until about midnight tonight. So that's the only problem with that. The GFS should be out to where we want to look at it by 10 o'clock tonight. So I'll be able to share more on that at 10, or at least it'll be real close. And then the high resolution models by this time tomorrow night finally start coming in. And the importance of those is they focus more in on the finer details. And that's what we really need to look at. There's one thing going on that we're seeing, and you mentioned Bridgeport there, Crystal. There could be a wedge of colder air that's pushing up against this warm nose, we call it, moving in east of I-65. So there could be some of this colder air trapped in some of those mountain valleys in the northeast corner of the state of Jackson, DeKalb, and even down into Etowah County. So it's going to be a real fine line. We almost have like what we would call like a microclimate going on in those areas. So let's get into the forecast here. Find the right button. Circle box. There we go. It's cold outside right now, and it'll be cold overnight. We'll see lows right around, say, 25 degrees. Clouds increase tomorrow, and then it starts to rain. So let me transition here. Make sure you're on the right graphic there. So as we transition, we're going to start to see rain showers tomorrow evening, about a half-inch rain, and that should be about it. Making sure. Okay, good. So let's start with Saturday. We're talking about midnight. The other thing is, the Barron model, the BAMS model, has the winter system moving in during the late afternoon, early evening hours Friday. I don't think there's much merit to that. The GFS has it coming in, the American model has it coming in around 10 o'clock. But the European model has been kind of rock solid about saying, hey, wait a minute, probably 1 or 2 in the morning. So I think this initially starts as all snow. I still think that's a really high possibility. We could get a quick 2 to 3 inches of snow before sunrise Saturday morning. The area in pink here, that's going to be the area of sleet and freezing rain. And where I think the model's doing a really bad job is determining how much sleet. We all remember 2014 when we had all that sleet. We only had like 1.5 inches of sleet. We could see 2 to 3 inches of sleet falling. And again, sleet is an ice pellet. It looks like Dippin' Dots. You hear it on the roof, and it accumulates on the roads. People drive over it, it crushes it, and it forms a sheet of ice. So at some point, we're going to transform from this sleet to freezing rain. So as I move forward here, that's going to take place probably around noon or 1 o'clock. I think this snow area that you see kind of in periwinkle, we'll call it, listen to mark it with a Crayola crayon, I think that's going to shift to the north, really close to the state line. So by noon Saturday, most of us are going to see at least a mix of sleet and snow, and then farther south, as you get south of the river, the Tennessee River, probably more of a freezing rain event. But you notice the temperatures. One thing that the European model does is it keeps it cold. 19 degrees in Phil Campbell, that's just around noon on Saturday. So if we do indeed stay around 19 with freezing rain, there's going to be accumulation, or what is technically called accretion, of ice on power lines and trees that happens rather quickly. And the problem is the model guidance is going ½ inch to an inch, a lot of that. And when you get a ½ inch of ice on a tree, it significantly weighs it down. On a power line, it's going to weigh it down. In fact, ½ inch of ice on a power line weighs about 500 pounds over about a 300-foot stretch. And I'm sure there's a lot of the like the electric companies that know a lot more about that than I do. So again, they're going to go through meetings the next few days. Weather Service is going to have briefings for local EMA offices. And if it's needed, there'll be a winter storm watch will likely go out late tomorrow, probably tomorrow night. They usually like to keep that within 48 hours of when they think it's supposed to happen. So that would give us Thursday, Friday. So again, tomorrow evening about this time, I would expect a watch. And then if the model guidance continues to trend in this direction, we would probably go to either a winter storm warning or an ice storm warning. I can see a winter storm warning needed if this all continues to go in this direction for the northern counties of Alabama, and then farther south from roughly the Tennessee River south to Birmingham, probably an ice storm warning because it's that bad. Here's 345, and we are still well below freezing in all areas. One area that may stay below freezing the entire time is going to be, say, Harvest, Monrovia, over to Decatur, and down towards Smith Lake. And those are the areas that may end up having the worst part of this. And if you go back to 1996, I think it was a very similar setup. That's when we had significant icing, especially in the shoals. We had numerous trees down. And I think one of the reasons they were hit harder is because we had this warm nose pushing east of I-65. See, hearing people say the 18Z, believe it was trending. Yeah, it is pushing a little bit warmer to the north. It's pushing the wintry mix to the north. But the 18Z model run, I don't always trust that. Usually the morning run and the evening run are the more solid runs. There's a little bit more data into them. And the Hurricane Hunter aircraft's actually out over the Gulf sampling the atmosphere, and they're going to put, I believe there's going to be some input, maybe tonight's run or overnight tonight. There will be some input into that. Because, you know, we don't get a lot of, we don't have any weather balloons, any soundings over the ocean. So none of that happens out there. And that's where a lot of this area low pressure is going to form. So again, this is a very far reaching storm. We're just kind of right in the middle of it. We just happen to be right in the battle zone. So again, there probably will be some people disappointed if they don't get, you know, this massive ice storm, but I'm not going to be disappointed in the least. Here's where we start to transition as we go overnight into Sunday morning. And the afternoon model run was a little bit more aggressive with this warm nose coming in, but the GFS still is not. So again, not all models are agreeing. Notice that shade of green, but also notice the temperatures. Will it snow in Hartselle? Probably more sleet in Hartselle and freezing rain. So this warm area kind of slowly lifts to the north, but the temperatures are still in the 30s. If there's a ½ inch or more of ice on the trees and we warm up above freezing, it's really not going to make a big impact even over a 3 or 4 hour period. And then right after this, the temperatures crash into the teens Sunday night. So again, a flash freeze is possible. These numbers are concerning for everyone. So we've talked a lot about the snow and the sleet. Some areas along the state line are most likely to get a 6 inch to 10 inch snowfall. It's going to be a real narrow window. You may go from right along the state line 6 inches of snow to up to Columbia where it's 18 inches of snow in Tennessee. There's going to be a very narrow band here with this. But these numbers are very concerning because they've been showing up time after time, not only on the European model, but on the GFS model. So again, a ½ inch of ice is all it takes for us to start to see tree limbs fall, the bridges ice over, and roads become impassable. And this model here, in fact, the 18Z model, this only reflects the morning model run. The noon model run actually is almost double on some of these numbers. In the shoals, it has 2 inches. So this is very concerning, especially considering the shoals down to Russellville, even areas of Lawrence County, all of Lauderdale County, Limestone County, you do not get above freezing for this entire event. So there's going to be a sharp drop-off between areas we're really extremely concerned about for widespread damage, not only to the power grid, but to trees, and the areas that it gets bad and then it may improve a little bit. Sunday. So again, there's that about a 6-hour window Sunday east of I-65 into the northeast corner of the state where we could see some improvement. But it's yet to be seen. We'll have the latest forecast coming up. Tomorrow, again, just rain, cold rain, temperatures in the low 50s, 10-day forecast. First alert weather days for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday's just kind of a prep in case it moves in early. May extend this to Monday with a morning low of 8, and that's going to be dependent upon the snowpack. So if there's, say, 18 inches of snow, 20 miles or so across the state line in Tennessee, and the wind's out of the north, that's just going to reinforce how cold it is, and it's going to make it colder. So we'll see that. I don't see a huge snowfall as you get along and south of the Tennessee River. And again, I'm saying huge snowfall. Again, we just don't know the exact facts. So tomorrow evening, we are going to be watching the high-resolution model guidance come in, and we're also watching the trend. This is a trend east of I-65 of slightly warmer air coming in. If it comes in earlier and earlier, that'll be some really good news there. Once again, I say really good news because we're not expecting, doesn't look like a major snowstorm. It looks like an ice storm, and that's like the worst thing. You don't want an ice storm. It's been since really 96 since we had an ice storm. Some people would consider 2 years ago an ice storm. Technically, it's a sleet storm. The difference is our roads will be just about like that. Potentially, our roads are going to be just as bad as they were 2 years ago, but the power lines are going to be suspect. So the trees may fall, tree limbs may fall. So, I mean, if you happen to be around the house, you could just look at things that the ice may do damage to, things like that. So it's just, when you're dealing with ice, it's a whole different animal. Again, the situations are going to be different for many areas, but we'll continue to monitor it. And we're gonna be really transparent here. Again, I'm mentioning there's a possibility, again, this becomes rain across Sand Mountain and Lookout Mountain as we get into a Sunday morning, maybe even Saturday night. So that's a transition we'll watch. Again, that is why the Weather Service waits till 48 hours out before they issue these kind of watches, just because things change. We know things change, but we also know in this world, people want to know as soon as possible when an impact like this could affect them. And the way social media is now, these types of graphics get shared everywhere. So again, just prepare for the worst and hope for the best. That's kind of what we are doing right here. We'll have another update tomorrow morning. I got another update tonight at 10 as well. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to leave you with this 1-minute commercial break. All right. Mic's back on. Sorry about that. I knew I was forgetting one thing. But again, we're watching the ice potential here. That's our biggest concern. There could be about 1 to 2 inches of snow on the backside of all this as we go late into Sunday. But the other thing here is, even if this does change to rain in eastern parts of Alabama as we go into Sunday, there's going to come a point where we're going to maybe flash freeze, where temperatures will drop into the teens quickly, and it could be a little slushy, and then that slush just turns to ice. So I think we're going to see, some issues out there regardless. So again, we don't know exactly. The models never know exactly what's going to happen, and neither do we. Sorry about forgetting to turn my mic back on, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. Got to get ready for that 10 o'clock news.